Hello YouTubers, this is noobifier. I started this playlist and series Community Concerns because I have more time to research. If you've missed past week's installments, they're put into a playlist that could be started, much like a podcast. And you can do this when you're evaluating if you should just start the entire playlist at the start and listen to it all the way on the way to work. Consider bookmarking it and checking in every once in a while to get caught up to date with what the community is talking about. And if you find it fun, do me a favor and share it with a friend or orgmate. Today is the 16th of May, 2023, and I didn't do one last week because as I read looking for good content, I drew a blank. Seems that nobody was concerned with anything last week, but this week is different. I do them on Tuesdays, choosing topics that are well presented and have a good banter back and forth. We begin with the threads. Hawkass posted a question backed up with a list of examples. They want to know if CIG actually takes community feedback seriously. They acknowledge that CIG does fix some issues that are brought up, but basically state that they want more focus onto the longer standing issues that have been with us for a very long time. The questions that go unanswered, the bugs, and the balance that seems to always break the game. They said that Xenothreat comes and goes and then returns with the same seemingly simple to correct issues. Pretty presumptuous seeing how they're not a developer. They observed the developer sidestepping and then laughing off questions like what will happen with night vision, and I agree with their statement as based on what Todd said on the most recent SE Live, they know it's setting new players onto a path where they will likely be trolled and griefed. But we'll fix it in the future. So my question is, why not delay it and fix it rather than just pump and dump? Anyways, I can write an entire video about that one sentiment, about this one part of development, but we move on. The OP indirectly insinuated that Jared should go more directly and tackle topics that they know that are of interest to us, such as night vision and bugs. I disagree in holding Jared responsible or make him part of this, as his job is primarily to host a 2-week show with a nearly limitless scope of topics. My point is, it's unfair to hold the content director responsible for whatever is implied of the lack of transparency, and I truly don't believe that this is a deliberate thing. And then again, what do you want? Jared to make a video about night vision like a year ago, and then we make another video about night vision and there's been no progress? How's that going to help anybody? Right? They closed out their post by stating that they want more communication and they expect all of the follow-up conversation in Spectrum to be civilized. In Spectrum? I've rarely seen a topic like this not devolve into a flame war. Gray6 posted a meme. So good. Ego Main posted that feedback on feedback is a waste of developers' time, and they would rather that time be spent on making the game. They went on to explain that CIG is making a game, their game, not ours, and this does make sense to me, as with millions of active backers who all have opinions, eventually at some point you might need to just close the fucking door to drown out the endless string of feedback. Everyone has an opinion. The OP was pretty pissed off with that statement, saying, "No bro, Chris said that he was building our game. The hair splitting back and forth was the forefront, with both parties missing the original point. The point was, are the developers accountable? And to me, the entire thing was off the rails and entitled from the start. I often ask for accountability and transparency. However, I'm asking for a big picture snapshot, not down to the minutia level like the OP. I am somewhat frustrated that the new player experience couldn't launch in a more complete manner, but I do accept Todd Pappy's answer from last week that they are aware that it's imperfect, but they needed to launch it, test it, and then work on it. The OP is asking for what is, in my opinion, a layer of direct communication with the developers that is at this point unrealistic. It's great that the team reads and watches our content, and it's great that that might result in a racetrack or a new mission. The developers work for the supervising section heads, who work for the team leads, who work for Chris. And I say that to clarify something important. I often make annual content asking for transparency, and when I do that, all I'm hoping for is a letter from Chris. My requests are never directed at Tony, Aaron, Todd, or Ben, because it's crazy to expect them to be accountable to us. We are backing Chris's dream, not the other way around. What say you? Are you on the side of the OP that you feel feedback is not reaching the developers? Comment in the comments. Next. KJavi proclaimed that they're disappointed by the PTU Champion Rewards, but specifically who was chosen to receive the awards. If you don't know, recently CIG highlighted some of those who tested and reported better than the rest, and then rewarded them with digital spaceships. When I first saw this thread, my first thought was that the OP tests, and they were pissed off that they didn't win a prize. Based on their own section in their post called Full Disclosure, my initial thoughts seem to be correct, but I'm not highlighting that to be petty. The OP said that they test for hundreds of hours and got nothing. They reported dozens of bugs and got nothing. They filled out every questionnaire and got nothing. But someone who didn't even install the PTU got a $350 ship, and someone who sold a bunch of fake drugs in a space game got a $250 ship. Again, we're off to a rocky start with this. Nomad was quick to point out that the majority of the replies missed the point of the OP. CIG failed to identify the people who actually deserved the reward, and that ultimately hurts the point of giving away spaceships in the first place. This went on back and forth, and the thread was acting like two adults taking turns slapping each other with a soft taco. The banter was funny, but ultimately nobody is right, because neither are qualified to speak on how the ships were delivered, and they have no idea how they were chosen, right? This somewhat goes back to that situation we had last year where Jake suggested that the community was being loud. That, of course, backfired, but I do understand perhaps what Jake was trying to say. CIG is always burned by a vocal minority for not doing enough, and when CIG does more, the same or another vocal minority burns them for not doing that thing the way the vocal minority would have wanted to. I promise you, none of this thread would have been a thing if the OP got a free ship. And OP, before you comment to the contrary, I'm going to remind you that the channel is based on no bullshit, and I smell it. It's okay for you to fight for right, but in this case, it would have been more productive for you to suggest a way to fix it rather than highlighting people who were rewarded improperly. That's pretty petty. Perhaps this thread is similar to how you fill out your ETF bug report forms and perhaps why you were passed over for your free ship. I personally think it's a great thing that CIG is doing. It really costs nothing because it's like printing ships or printing money. Whoever gets the ship is obviously doing something positive to be singled out. Even if you were to say that giving them a ship reward might reduce funding, but it's not really like that. In my opinion, they have likely already funded the game quite nicely and will simply focus the money that they didn't spend on that ship onto another ship to expand their fleet. Comment in the comments with your comments if you want to comment. Next. Last Wave asks the age-old question, why can we not slave empty manned or manned remote turrets to the pilot? It appears as though they've joined in 2018, so this might have been after the turret replacing module for the Hornet and the Cuddy went out of style. If you don't know, at one point very early on, you could choose to replace the ball turret with a fixed hardpoint. It was pretty OP in Arena Commander, which was the meta and fine at the time, but it was removed from the inventory, and all of this was said to have something to do with balance. That makes sense, and we also know that the main point of the Hurricane, Super Hornet, and others that have two people in it is to reward effective teamwork. Slaving everything to one player results in a super ship scenario, which in the real world would make sense, but this is a game, so choosing any other ship except for that ship would become a bad choice. Cake or Death wasted no time in providing a quality reply. They said a lot of what I just said, and they told the OP to not hold their breath for this kind of change. And then they went on further to say that the only way they would have any hope of getting this changed would to be hired by CIG as a developer with the plan to topple David as the lead vehicle programmer. Jokes aside, this isn't a feature that we want because they're missing mechanics that will address this in the future. The OP seems to simply want a magic god ship when all they need to do is choose a better suited ship for their gameplay or to team up with a friend who has a solid aim. There was a bunch of further discussion about how unrealistic that is in 1,000 years that we don't have guns that are slaved. Some suggested it was premature to discuss balance because we're still missing physicalized damage, components, armor, and stealth. Oh, and AI blades. A lot of smart replies in that thread. Comment any comments you might like to comment in the comments. Next. Commander Jameson asked if CIG would invest more effort into peaceful missions. They are looking for suggestions and discussions. I really like how they formatted their post. More complex box mission, medical missions, racing missions, salvage missions, PI missions. They want more than a simple fetch quest, and they want balance between kill and bounty and what we have. I'm highlighting it because I fully agree that as much as this is a PvP sandbox with guns on everything from a destroyer all the way down to the starter, not everyone wants to kill all the time. It's good news then for the OP to point out that the team in Montreal just showcased new locations on a recent ISC. That team specified that not all missions would be of that nature. They were planning more complex cargo, salvage, and mining missions. Wiggy1 proposed a list of suggestions stating that they agree with the OP and want peaceful options. So survey and scan, resupply, and my favorite title was Dude, Where's My Car? Where you go find a car for someone who got drunk the night before. Basically a box fetching mission for a spaceship. Tesseract came up with another list that was quite dependent on missing tech. Ultimately, I do have faith that the team want to offer a wide range of mission types, but as was stated, core tech might be needed first before the creative juices can flow and make that into a reality. That's it. I'm done for this week. That's what Spectrum is worried about. comment on this or anything. Thanks for your support. I would love you to post it wherever it makes sense so others can share. Fly safe, and I'll see you in the verse.